Good morning. Welcome to Algebra 1, Lesson 5 with Ms. Barrett. Today's objective is hopefully students will be able to factor four-term polynomials using the grouping method. We're continuing our discussion of factoring. Today we're going to talk about how to factor four-term polynomials, and the reason why we're doing that is because it's going to lead us into factoring quadratics when you cannot factor out a GCF to make the coefficient or the A term 1. Okay, so the first activity is the notes, which is in the email. Your second activity is practice, which is part of the notes. And also the third activity is the individual practice, which you would do on your own based on the notes, which is also part of the notes. Okay, don't forget to finish your IXL activity by Monday, 11:59 p.m. Okay, so factoring four-term polynomials. So we have factored lots of polynomials so far. We have taken the GCF of multiple types of polynomials. We have factored factor pairs where A is equal to 1 or the coefficient is equal to 1. And we have factored binomials, okay, also using GCF. Okay, all right. Today we are going to factor four-term polynomials using the grouping method. Okay, it's called this because we are going to group the terms together. For example, 3x cubed plus 6x squared plus 2x plus 4. Step 1. Okay, and I'm going to write this again over here so we have more space. Okay. So step 1 is to group the first two terms and the last two terms using parentheses. So I'm going to do that using different colors. So these are my first two terms. And these are my last two terms. Now, I'm going to take the sign of that third term because the sign makes a difference in the rest of the steps. Okay, so basically you break them up into parentheses. Since it's four terms, each set of parentheses gets two terms. Okay. Next up, take the GCF out of each binomial. So here we say each parentheses has two terms, therefore it's a binomial. So I'm going to take the GCF out of each binomial. Okay. Now, the GCF should be the largest factor they have in common, including the numbers and the variables. What's clear here, the largest factor that 3x cubed and 6x have in common is 3x squared. They both have a largest factor of 3. They both have at least two x's. Now what's left? So if I divide 3x cubed by 3x squared, and I divide 6x squared by 3x squared, I'm going to have left x. 6x squared divided by 3x squared is positive 2. Okay. I'm going to do that same thing with my second set of parentheses. The largest factor they have in common is just 2. 2x plus 4, 2x and 4 have just the factor 2. They both do not have an x, so they just have 2 in common, which is positive 2. And then what's left, if I divide both of these by 2, I get x plus 2. Now, what you should notice here, which is a very important thing here, is that these two are the same. What's in your parentheses after you take out a GCF should be the same. Okay? It should be the same. And then you're going to take these two and put them together. So what's in the parentheses is considered one factor. X plus 2 is just considered one factor. And then 3x squared plus 2 is going to be considered another factor. So it says rewrite the two GCFs as one binomial and the inside parentheses as another. So the two GCFs are one binomial, 3x squared plus 2. And then the two in the parentheses, what was left is one binomial, x plus 2. So what we did was we took the two GCFs and we put them together. And we took the 1. This becomes 1. And we put that together. Okay. Let's do it again. We have example number 2. Factor 5x cubed plus 15x squared minus 3x minus 9. And we're going to factor this. Okay. First step is to put the first two terms in parentheses and the second two terms in parentheses. Remembering to take the sign of that third term. Now, obviously, if you need to, you can do your factorization. Okay, the largest that they have in common is going to be 5. Now, if you don't need to do this, you don't have to do this. I'm just showing you that you can do the same thing we've been doing as far as factoring. Okay, so now we know they have at least 5 in common. Now let's look at the variables. They both have at least 2 x's. So they're going to have 5x squared in common. That's the GCF. Okay. So I'm going to put 5x squared in the outside. And what's left? Well, 5x cubed divided by 5x squared is just x. And then 15x squared divided by 5x squared is going to be 3. Positive 3. Now, I have negative 3x minus 9. Okay. If we look at let's say negative 3 and then negative 9, they could have either, and I'm going to write like this because the signs are negative. We can have either negative 3 and 1 or 1 and negative 3. We can have negative 3 and 3. Okay. I'm sorry, these are the same. It should be negative and positive 3. We can have it like that. Well, they both have a negative 3 in common. They both have a negative 3 in common. So, but they also both have a positive 3 in common. But if you remember what I said earlier, x plus 2, we want what's left in the parentheses to be the same. So we have to figure out with this one whether we want to take out the negative or we want to take out the positive. Now, let's say I take out the negative 3. That'll give us x plus 3. Okay. If I take out the positive, that'll give us x minus 3. Now, we've already factored out this first two terms, and we got x plus 3 in the parentheses. So that tells us that we want to use this one right here, because x plus 3 and x plus 3 have to be the same in the parentheses. So negative 3 times x plus 3. Okay. Again, I did that because if I take out the -3, I get what I need to make the same in the parentheses here. If I take out the +3, it becomes x minus 3. Those are not the same. Therefore, they would not be factors. Okay, so now that I have these two, I took out the GCF and now I have the factors, I can now take these and make this a factor. And then take these two, put them together and make them a factor. And this would be my answer. So the factors of 5x cubed plus 15x squared minus 3x minus 9 is 5x squared minus 3 times x plus 3. And if you ever get confused, you can always do your FOILs, first, outer, inner, last, to check your answer. For the sake of time, I'm not going to do that here. Okay. All right. Let's do some more examples. (6x cubed minus 24x squared plus 4x minus 16). So here, I'm going to again group them, the first and second term, and then the third and fourth term together by using parentheses. Find the GCF of these two terms. The largest factor they have in common, as far as the numbers are concerned, is 6. The largest factor, as far as the variables they could have, is x squared. They both have at least 2 x's. So I'm going to divide both of these by 6x squared. Now, I noticed that in our examples, the x squared has been the greatest common factor as far as the variables. That will not always be the same. It can be anything. Okay, it can be anything. You'll see that in some other examples. Okay, so 6x squared is our GCF. We put it out on the side. What's left? 6x cubed divided by 6x squared is just x, right? There's 1 x left. Remember, x cubed divided by x squared is like saying 3 minus 2, which is 1. And then negative 24x squared divided by 6x squared is going to be negative 4, and that's it. It's just negative 4, right? Because x squared divided by x squared is like saying 2 minus 2, which is 0. So that means there's 0 x's left. Now, for my second one, the largest factor they have in common as far as numbers is positive 4. This is a positive 4, right? So they have positive 4 in common. So I'm going to write plus 4. Divide both of these by 4. And then 4x divided by 4 is just x. And then negative 16 divided by 4 is negative 4. As long as these two are the same, then you're correct. You should be fine, unless you did your division incorrectly. Okay, remember these two are considered one factor. And then you take these two factors and you put them together. 6x, the two GCFs. And that would be my answer. All right, next up, 10x cubed plus 8x squared plus 15x plus 12. Group them by parentheses. 10x cubed and 8x squared. Let's look. Let's find the biggest factor they have in common. Okay. 10 and 1. 5 and 2. Okay, and then 8 has 8 and 1. 4 and 2. And then you can say this is 2 and 2. So it's clear the biggest factor they have in common is 2. And then as far as the numbers are concerned, and then they both have at least 2 x's. So it's going to be 2x squared. That's going to be my GCF. What's left? Well, 10x cubed divided by 2x squared is going to be 5x. And then 8x squared divided by 2x squared is going to be 4. Positive 4. Next up, 15x plus 12. All right, let's do 15 and 12. It's going to be 15 and 1, 5 and 3. This is going to be 12 and 1, 3 and 4, 2 and 2. As you can see, 3 is the largest factor they have in common. They don't have any x's in common, so it's going to be positive 3. 15x divided by 3 is 5x. And then 12 divided by 3 is positive 4. Again, as you can see, these two in the parentheses are the same. They are written down as one factor. And then 2x squared plus 3 is another factor. That would be my answer. If you would like to check it, go ahead and do your FOILs. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to pause the video and I want you to try to do numbers 3 and 4 on your own as your practice. Use the notes, the 3 or 4 we've already done as an example. And then come back. Okay, so we're going to group into parentheses. Remembering that there's an invisible 1 here. What do they have in common? The greatest number they're going to have in common is 1. They both at least have 1x. So it's going to be 1x is going to be the greatest common factor. Write it on the outside. What's left? 1x squared divided by 1x is going to be x. 2x divided by 1x is going to be positive 2. For x plus 8, 4 is the greatest common factor as far as the numbers are concerned, and they do not have any x's in common, so it's going to be positive 4. 4x divided by 4 is x, and then 8 divided by 4 is 2. So we have 1x times x plus 2 plus 4 times x plus 2. These two are the same. They are considered one factor. These two go together. 1x plus 4 times x plus 2. Okay. That's your answer. Last but not least, we have s squared minus s plus 4s minus 4. Now, here we have s instead of x. So we have to use the variable that they give us. Still the same steps. Break them down by 2's. S squared minus s, again, there's invisible 1's in front of here. They both have 1 in common, the number 1, the coefficient 1. And then they both have at least 1s. So it's 1s is I'll write the 1 like this for the sake. 1s is our greatest common factor for that pair. 1s squared divided by 1s is going to be s. Negative 1s divided by positive 1s is going to be negative 1. 4s minus 4, they both have the coefficient 4 in common. They do not have an s in common. So now positive 4s divided by 4 is going to be, I'm sorry, put the coefficient out. I mean the greatest common factor out. Positive 4s divided by 4 is going to be s. And then negative 4 divided by 4 is going to be negative 1. As you can see, we know we're correct because s minus 1, we have the same thing in parentheses. We bring these two together, 1s plus 4 times s minus 1. Okay, now looking at numbers 3 and 4, as you can see, I've already done it for you. I broke them down into 2 groups of 2. 1x squared plus 2x and 4x plus 8. The 1x squared plus 2x had the coefficient 1 in common and the variable x because they both have at least 1x. So I took that out as a GCF, and what was left was x plus 2 because x squared divided by x is x, and then 2x divided by 1x is 2. Okay, and then 4x plus 8, they both have the coefficient of 4 in common. They do not have any x's in common, so I got 4x divided by 4, put the GCF outside, that's x, and then 8 divided by 4 is 2. Okay, the x plus 2's are considered one factor. I wrote it right here, and then I take my 1x plus 4 and I put it together, and I'm done. And for number 4, I have 1s squared minus 1s plus 4s minus 4. As you can see here, we have s's instead of x's. Whatever variable that they give you, it could be t, p, q, r, it could be anything. You have to use that variable in your answer, okay? So 1s squared minus 1s, they have 1s in common. Divide both of those by that. Put 1s out as your GCF. What we have left is s minus 1. 4s minus 4, they both have a coefficient of 4 in common. When I divide both of those by 4, I put the GCF outside. I have left s minus 1. These two are the same. Okay. I write these two s minus 1s as one factor. And I write my 1s plus 4 as another factor. Okay. Now, you don't have to write them in this order. No matter what order you write them in, it's all the same because multiplication is transitive, it's commutative, and associative. Okay, so yeah, there you go. For your homework or your independent practice, you are going to do the your turn. It is 6 problems. You ought to show all of your work on here. If you get stuck, you can comment on this video. You can email me, and you can also refer to your notes. Okay, I hope everyone is, again, staying happy and healthy, and I'll see you next lesson. Bye.